Hi, my name is Brendan Murphy. I'm a statistician with the Central Statistics Office. This presentation gives an overview of statistics from Profile 5 on topics including citizenship, migration, ethnic background, Irish travellers and religion. The publication and statistical tables are available now on the CSO website. This first section looks at citizenship and foreign languages. The question on citizenship is used to collect data on the number of people with Irish and non-Irish citizenship. In Census 2022, the question asked, "What is your country of citizenship?" Whereas previously people were asked about their nationality. The census also collects data on languages spoken at home other than English and Irish, and how well English is spoken. There were over 630,000 non-Irish citizens living in the country in April 2022. This made up 12% of the population. Half of non-Irish citizens, almost 313,000 people, were citizens of countries in the European Union, and 13% were UK citizens. Over 235,000 people were from countries outside of the EU and UK, including 16% who were citizens of Asian countries. Non-Irish citizens had an average age of 36 years, compared with an average age of over 39 years for Irish citizens. The average age of both non-Irish and Irish citizens has increased over recent censuses. UK citizens were something of an outlier, with an average age of nearly 50 years. Ukrainians living in Ireland on census night had an average age of 25 years. Citizens of India living in Ireland had an average age of 27. There's a question in the census: do you speak a language other than English or Irish at home? To which over 750,000 people answered yes. Polish was by far the most common language spoken, with 124,000 speakers. A further part to the question asks speakers of languages other than English or Irish how well they speak English. 81% of Polish speakers spoke English well or very well. Also, there were over 57,000 Romanian speakers, with 76% speaking English well or very well. The census collects data on people who were living abroad and moved to Ireland in the year leading up to the census. This would include both people who emigrated previously and have come back to Ireland, and people who are coming to Ireland for the first time. This provides data on immigration patterns and the characteristics of people who moved to Ireland recently. There were close to 90,000 people who moved to Ireland in the 12 months before the census, up 9% from the equivalent period in Census 2016. About 1 in 4 people who moved to Ireland were Irish citizens, and 3 in 4 were citizens of countries other than Ireland. Irish citizens were most likely to be moving to Ireland from the UK, nearly 6,000 people moving from England and Wales, a further 2,000 moving from Northern Ireland, and nearly 500 from Scotland. Australia was the next most common country of origin for Irish people, with more than 2,500 arrivals in the year before Census 2022. Other common countries of origin for Irish citizens were the USA, Canada, and after that, the United Arab Emirates, as well as European Union countries, including Spain, Germany, and France. India was by far the most common country of origin of non-Irish citizens who came to live in the state in the year before census, with almost 10,000 arrivals. Brazil was the second most common country of origin, with over 5,000 arrivals. There were over 4,000 arrivals from Spain. Other EU countries, Romania, France, Italy, and Poland, featured in the top 10 countries of origin. Ukraine also features in the top 5, reflecting the impact of the start of the Ukrainian crisis. A separate CSO publication on Ukrainian arrivals in Ireland gives more up-to-date information on the number of recent arrivals and can be found on the CSO website. In total, there were over 4,000 arrivals from the UK, with most coming from England and Wales. So this next section looks at ethnic background. So following a consultation process, the question on ethnic group or background was updated for Census 2022. New response categories were added, including Roma, Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, and Arab. The change to the question does mean that some categories are not directly comparable with the previous census results. 77% of the population had an ethnic background of white Irish, a total of 3.9 million. The new categories that were added to the question show that there were 94,000 people with Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi background, 20,000 people who identified as Arab, and 16,000 as Roma. The second largest ethnic group was any other white background, making up 10% of the population. There were 67,500 people who identified as Black or Black Irish African, equivalent to over 1% of the population. As a result of the change to the question, it is now possible to produce statistics on the Roma population in Ireland. This chart is a population pyramid, which gives a breakdown by age and sex. The data shows that Roma living in Ireland are mostly in 2 age cohorts. 36% of Roma are between the ages of 30 and 44 years, and 19% between the ages of 5 and 14 years, indicating a makeup of mostly families with school-aged children. The question on ethnic group or background also has a category for Irish travellers, and this section will look at some of the data on Irish travellers in more detail. The number of Irish travellers living in Ireland was almost 33,000, up 6% from 31,000 in 2016. Irish travellers make up less than 1% of the population. Overall, 6 out of 1,000 people in Ireland were Irish travellers. The proportion of Irish travellers in the population varied from county to county. In Galway City, 21 out of every 1,000 people were Irish travellers, whereas Dún Laoghaire Down had the lowest number of Irish travellers per 1,000 of population, with just under 2 Irish travellers for every 1,000 people. The average age of the Irish traveller population was 27 years, compared with 39 years for the total population. The shape of the population pyramid for Irish travellers shows that there are more young people and fewer older travellers than would be expected. This reflects higher fertility rates and lower average life expectancy among the Irish traveller population. Children under the age of 15 made up 36% of Irish travellers, compared with 20% of the total population. At a national level, 15% of the total population was aged 65 years and over, while for Irish travellers the equivalent figure was just 5%. 26% of Irish travellers reported experiencing at least one long-lasting condition or difficulty. The equivalent rate for the total population was lower at 22%. Breaking this down further, 15% of Irish travellers, nearly 5,000 people, reported experiencing at least one long-lasting condition or difficulty to a great extent, compared with 8% of all people living in Ireland. Another 11% of Irish travellers reported experiencing at least one long-lasting condition or difficulty to some extent, or little, while the comparable figure for the total population was 14%. Data on smoking was collected for the first time in Census 2022. There were over 5,400 Irish travellers who were daily smokers, or 16% of the traveller population, compared with 9% of the total population. Some 9% of travellers had given up smoking, less than half the proportion of the overall population who have quit. Looking at smoking by age shows that 1 in 3 Irish travellers between the ages of 25 and 54 were daily smokers, compared to 1 in 8 for the total population. The next section looks at the breakdown of the population by religion. Almost 7 out of 10 people living in Ireland in Census 2022 reported that they were Roman Catholic, a total of over 3.5 million, down from 3.7 million in 2016 and 3.8 million in 2011. There were 736,000 people with no religion, over 14% of the population. This was an increase of 63% from 2016 and of 187% since the 2011 census. The second largest religious grouping was made up of Protestant denominations, including the Church of Ireland, and accounted for nearly 125,000 people, up 2% in 6 years. The Orthodox religious grouping accounted for over 100,000 people, an increase of 65% in 6 years, and 128% in the 11 years since Census 2011. The number of Roman Catholics aged 45 and over increased by 7% between the 2016 and 2022 censuses, whereas the overall population in this cohort increased by 18%. There was a drop of 21% in the number of Roman Catholics under the age of 10, while the population in this cohort decreased by 8%. The population with no religion increased across all age cohorts. In absolute terms, the largest increases are in the population aged 25 to 50, but in relative terms there were large increases in the number of children under 10 and adults aged 45 and over with no religion. Thank you for taking the time to watch today's presentation. The next results from the census will be published in November.